Right.
Oh my Lord, have mercy. Hey, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to this episode of the Trestle Board Talk. I am one of your co-hosts, Brother Trey. I'm joined by two distinguished brothers, Brother Justin and Brother Doctor Raul Randall. Before we get started, disclaimer is that the views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of ours and do not in any way reflect the views and opinions of any lodges or grand lodges or Masonic bodies that we may hold membership in. With
There we
that,
Yeah.
go.
let's kick it.
All
Yeah.
right, man. Go ahead, Jay. Unload,
Yeah.
man.
I mean, uh, it's been a very eye-opening experience for me. I've been in my new jurisdiction of membership here for the last, I don't know, when it's been about 3 or 4 months at this point. And man, masonry's different, guys. I'm just gonna say that. Like a lot of the same elements are there, like the basic elements of community service and of ritual and trying to improve your ritual and becoming excellent in that, and officer progression and mentorship degrees, all those basic elements are there, but the man, the vibe here is different. I'm just going to say that right now. What, and I'm just going to start with what's been very off-putting, right? What has been off-putting to me, what is very different from the last lodge that I was a member of, which I demitted, and we've talked about that in previous episodes. There's a whole lot of pressure to join appended bodies here. It's crazy. And they pull no punches. They spend a tremendous amount of Blue Lodge time talking about appended body membership, talking about appended body events and support and this, that, and the other. And we've have raised probably, let's say, 4 or 5 guys in the last 4 months, which I can talk about membership here in a second. It's kind of a completely different story, but they're like vultures, man. Like they jump on these guys and they're just like, you need to join the shrine. You need to join the Scottish Rite. You need to join the York Rite. And intense pressure to the point where these guys are going to the shrine not even a month after they've been raised. And they've approached me a lot, and I've told them point blank, I am not interested. And it's not because I'm not interested in what they got going on. I just don't have the time. I feel like my time, space, and energy needs to be spent in the Blue Lodge right now. And that progressing and learning as much as I can, and potentially going through the officer line first before I start getting involved in all this other stuff. But man, these guys get put under intense pressure, and I've heard guys say that it's almost to the point where you will not progress in Blue Lodge unless you are members of other bodies. Like they almost hold guys hostage. Like you won't get a seat, you won't progress unless you go join these other bodies, because it makes you a well-rounded Mason. And I flat out over the weekend had to tell another brother in my lodge, I told him, I'm like, hey man, I know that your love and loyalty and you're very passionate about the shrine, but you need to support your Blue Lodge too. You can't be spending all of your time and energy there. You need to realize that you are only a member of the shrine because of your Blue Lodge membership. Let's not forget that this was the vehicle to open all these other doors. So that one's been a very eye-opening experience so far, because that was not my experience in the last lodge. It was kind of like, hey guys, like if you're interested in learning more, like we're here, we're available. Kind of like just letting you know you're available without being like overtly just like that overt amount of pressure and direct pressure. And it shows because guys are disappearing left and right. And we got guys that are just joining. Like I did an investigation not too long ago, and a guy straight up said, the only reason why I'm joining is because I want to become a Shriner. And I'm just like, what do I do? What do you do with this? petition, right? What do you do with this investigation? Like, this guy he is outwardly saying that he is not interested. He's using this just as a step in his quest for being a Shriner. It's pretty crazy.
Oh, wow.
It's
Well,
different.
Before we y'all can hear me still, right? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You're good.
So
You're good.
before we get started, or delve too deep into it, right, to give the listeners an idea of what this episode's about. So this episode is just state of masonry, the current state of masonry as we see it from our lens, and we are just going to discuss things that are happening right now, that are to happen in the future, and just discuss our views and opinions on that. So I just wanted to give the context before
Yeah, that would have
we
been nice.
delve too deep into our discussions. But with that, I got a couple questions for you, Justin, on that topic, man. You said a couple things, and I'll start with the last thing you said. Like, this brother,
Yeah.
joined because he wanted to, join the Shriners, or go to Shriner. I get that. I get it because one of my goals was to become a Templar, right? Nice, a knight.
Sure.
So I think that sometimes we, at least for some Masons, sometimes the first thing that we're introduced to is something that is of an appendant body. So that's what draws us in. So I think that could be a good thing to some degree. But I think once you get in there, you understand the structure of the degrees. You understand that the Blue Lodge is the stepping stone to everything else. But you also said something else, and I want to hear about this one. You said you raised dudes in like 4 months. What's
Oh yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, it, the process of making a Mason is different. You know,
Yeah.
there's really two guys in the lodge that are kind of designated to meet these guys and kind of be their first and second line signers. So the guys that endorse their petition to become a member.
yeah,
And nobody else meets them, right? Which is kind of strange. You might see him around once in a while, but like, there's no relationship during the petitioning process, which
yeah,
is kind of disheartening and completely different from my experience. Um, how are the members of the lodge supposed to make a intelligent decision and vote on bringing a guy in who they know nothing about? And I think we have a stated meeting this week, and I think we have like 4 or 5 more petitions waiting.
yeah.
So you guys vote on petitions and then you never meet the individuals?
So yeah, that happens a lot. There's 2 brothers in the lodge that meet him. Not in all cases, but in most cases, there's
Mhm.
only a couple guys that meet him, right? So there's just like, I want to see these guys show up to stuff. Like, that's just me. Like, I want to get to know them. I want them to come to the stated meeting dinner. Like, our dinners are open. We have dinner before lodge. You can come show up and do whatever. I want to see them at our events. That's just kind of the culture here, that these 2 guys of the lodge are kind of designated to be the ones that do the pre-screening, but then the rest of the lodge obviously has to do their due process of holding the vote and then balloting them, and then eventually they get their degrees. My lodge, I think we raised 8 to 10 Masons last year. And there's an immense amount of pride that goes along with that, that we have made the most Masons in the state, and they talk about it all the time.
Mm.
For me, and Trey, you bring up a good point about the appendant, going back to the appendant bodies kind of real quick, and I don't disagree with that. And I don't think that should shut a door in the guy's face, but I had a really hard time kind of accepting the fact that this guy was like, I don't plan to be active.
Yeah.
I plan on just kind of receiving my degrees, getting my stuff, and then moving on to what I'm interested in.
Did he say that specifically, or was it just an
Yeah,
inference?
I plan on not being very active. I plan
Oh,
on
there's
I
that.
plan on spending amount of most of my time at the shrine, which is fine, right? But I
Right.
just, for a guy initially petition, like, this guy isn't a master mason that's trying to affiliate. You know what I mean? This is
Yeah.
a guy that we're going to put a lot of work into studying and putting on quality degrees for him. You know, maybe that's just me kind of thinking. I mean, you guys kind of know how I am as far as my outlook on
All right.
not necessarily traditional observance, but loyalty to the Blue Lodge and making sure that things are taken care of at home before we start venturing out and doing other stuff. So this
Mhm.
may not be necessarily a problem. It's probably just the style of masonry that I like, if that makes sense. It might be a
Well,
personal thing.
I don't I don't personally I don't think it's the style of masonry. That's who you are at your
Yeah.
core, right? And then
Yeah.
at your core you look at it like, okay, Justin Ortega likes this in this space, and this is how I've known things, and you said something key in your thing
Yeah.
was the culture. Right.
Yeah.
The culture of that lodge is already set, and it's been that way apparently for years.
Yeah.
Right. And so look at it, take a step back and maybe look at it from through a different lens. Look at it as the culture is already set. That's one way, right?
Yep.
You once you know that, boom, okay, I got it. Now look at it when they said they brought in like 8 masons, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Masonry, just for both you and Trey, first and foremost, is a business.
Mm-hmm.
Like you, Justin, of all people, know that when we went to your
Oh, I know.
session and we went up to the offices and saw all the inner workings behind the scene, you know, that business aspect of it, right? And in any business, the most important piece of any business is the people.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we, as a collective, right? I think we got to look at masonry through the lens of first and foremost, it's a business, and then secondly, it's a fraternity. But
Sure.
even every fraternity, right? Whether that's Greek, whether that's the appendant bodies, whether that's symbolic lodge, business, and we generate revenue.
We do.
So I think as a collective, again, we just got to start looking at it through the lens of a bit from a business perspective lens, and
Yeah.
then we take the personal, right? Because we get frustrated. Like there's no
Oh,
doubt.
yeah.
Yeah, there's
There's
no
no
doubt.
doubt
Like
about that.
I mean, lately my biggest frustration has been the lack of communication, and
Mm.
I'm a communicator. So
Yeah.
if I'm telling you, if I'm communicating to you and showing you by example, I expect that same thing in return,
Sure.
right? And so again, it's like I think we have to manage the expectations
Yeah.
just in general,
I
right?
I agree.
Because
Yeah.
it's tough. Like I'm a certain way, you're a certain way, Trey's a certain way. We have certain questions. We're very intuitive, right? We're very analytical. All three of us will look at stuff and like, all right, that's cool, but
Right.
what's the why behind the why? But we just got to just take a step back, man, and kind of just see things for what they are, not what we want them to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think communication and expectations
Yeah,
for a guy coming in as well. Like, I think that
yeah,
sometimes those conversations don't get had. Like, hey, we want you to be a member, but it's not so much we want your money, like we want your engagement. We
yeah,
want your time, right? Because that's the most
right.
valuable thing we want. That's the most valuable thing any of us can give is our time, but
Mhm.
maybe we need to explain that a little bit better as well. What the expectations are for bringing in a new member, because you could have 100 guys, you could have 150 guys. That's great. But if you got the same 8 guys doing everything all the time,
Yeah,
like,
I'm surprised they got burnt out.
it's gonna be hard to get things done eventually, after time.
It is, but you're a breath of fresh air too. And
Yeah,
you got to think about something that Dr. Maya Angelou said. She said, if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude.
sure.
Right.
Yeah,
And as you're looking at that, you're like, I'm new to this situation, but I have fresh perspective. And then you're super intuitive. So at a certain point, it's going to be contagious. Energy is
yeah,
contagious, right? Your energy is going to be contagious, but it's up to you to keep that demon in check first, right? You know what I mean? All of us have
yeah,
it, right? All of us have that
yeah,
monster. But if we get that monster in check, look at the other people that are probably watching you because they know you're
sure.
from a different jurisdiction. You do things differently, but
Yeah,
and some of the older guys that may not have had the courage to say we need to do it a different way, but now you come with a different perspective.
Yeah.
You're probably that linchpin.
And I haven't voiced anything. You know,
Yeah.
I've really been just trying to get
Yeah.
along and go along and learn as much as I can before I start formulating and giving my opinions. You know,
That's the way to be.
but man, it's it's and I'm not even saying it's necessarily a bad thing. It's just different. And I'm trying to learn the new way of doing things. And you know, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. And it's some of the same challenges that we had in our last lodge.
And that's
Hey.
universal
You know,
across the board.
and that's what
Hey.
I've learned. I'll be like, oh wow, well
Hey.
there is no perfect lodge out there.
I know we just
What
had
the
a lecture
Proverbs
too.
say?
Go ahead.
The Proverbs say there ain't nothing new under the sun, boss.
No, it's
Yeah,
the same
no, you're
same
right.
thing. Yeah,
You know what I
You're
mean?
right,
it's the same
man. You're
story,
right.
right?
Indeed.
It
But
is.
Yeah, it's true.
it's exciting though, at the same time to be able to, come into a new lodge, in essence, a new culture, to learn the way that someone else does business, right? It's an opportunity to really just absorb and to take some of the best practice. Because I bet there's some good
Oh,
practices, some good that they
100%.
that they have over there
Yes.
that can be applied elsewhere, man. And I'm curious to hear about, some of those things like what's different over there that's a good practice,
You know, their ritual is really good here.
Mm,
The ritual is really good here. You know, same kind of thing. You know, you got like 5 or 6 or 7 guys that are interested in ritual
yeah,
and really take a lot of time in doing the ritual. You know, so there's a lot. I'd say there's a little bit more interest in it, and there's definitely interest in the lodge in getting it right and for
yeah,
it to be correct. You know, and the other kind of surprising thing the other thing that was kind of surprising in a very good way was the amount of support that the lodges provide for each other. Like, there's a guy in the southern part of my state, and he's the only guy that does a particular lecture in the second degree. He's
yeah,
kind of like the guy that does it. And he this is all this dude does, and he's a pro, you know, but
yeah,
he goes around to all and they hit him up and he's the guy, you know. So they do a very good job of supporting each other as far as putting on quality degrees. These are some of
yeah.
the best degrees I've ever seen. They really are. They're really, really well done. I would love for you guys to come out here and see it someday.
I
Um,
need to.
they
Um,
do it very well. The building maintenance is a beast that I've never had to really deal with. Like, our lodge is 160 years old, so
yeah,
just the amount of effort that it takes on behalf of the lodge just to upkeep the building, you know,
yeah,
keep it in code. You know, there's a lot that goes into that I think a lot of lodges that rent kind of take for granted. Like,
yeah,
that's just a completely other dynamic. It's just like a completely other side to uh, having a lodge, and we have those challenges of upkeeping our lodge, and guys are very knowledgeable. You know, you got
yeah,
guys that are like project engineers, they're working on the building, you know. So there's a lot. I don't mean to sound like it's just been absolutely horrendous. There's a lot of great things that I have learned also.
yeah,
They have there there are things that are quirky compared to what I'm used to. Um,
Mhm.
but you know, they have different kind of priorities. But again, I am very grateful because I feel like I'm getting very, very well rounded, right?
yeah,
Because I'm getting exposure to things that I wouldn't have been exposed to. You know, every lodge is very, 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 very different. You know, and I'm certainly learning a ton. But I'm having a hard time wrapping around my head of a few things.
yeah.
Okay. You still got the
That's
same job though, right? You're still doing the same
I
job.
do. Yeah,
Okay.
I still
Okay.
do the same job.
I,
Still do the
but
same
I
job.
think those experiences though, Jay, are going to be invaluable
Yeah.
because you're gonna take that stuff and you're gonna go to other jurisdictions and other lodges and you're gonna see where those things are not applied.
Yep.
And even coming back here,
Yep.
you'll be able to see the difference, although it may be quasi irritating when
Yeah.
you know what I mean. But
Yeah.
when you come, it takes some getting used to. It's an adjustment period. But when
It's a
you
huge
go,
adjustment. you
You're
know,
gonna
and
come back and you're gonna see how things are done here or other jurisdictions, and you're gonna be like, man, if they did X, Y, and Z,
yep,
like the ritualistic stuff. Like think
yeah,
about that, right? If just that as a baseline, if
yep,
every lodge, because there was a lodge recently that was just jacked up, I heard about today, on couldn't open and close to save their life.
yeah,
Period. Right. And so as we think about that, just think about the ritualistic stuff. If everybody just had that acumen,
yeah,
just that alone, right? We're not talking about the external stuff, the upkeep of the building. I got project engineers and stuff.
yeah,
Just the ritualistic acumen.
yep,
How much more enjoyable and memorable would these degrees be to these candidates?
yeah. I a few months ago I went to, not at my lodge, but in another lodge. They had some of the best ritualists from throughout the state come in and do a degree for a lodge that was struggling. It was the best degree I've ever seen. And we were having dinner afterwards, and the guy that got initiated was there, and I was chatting with him, and I was like, "Hey man, I'm be honest with you. I was like, I'm jealous of your experience. Not that I had a bad experience, but
Right.
it's going to take some time for you to really understand how awesome and impactful of a degree that you had. You know, I'm sitting in the South, and man, I got like tears coming to my eyes. Like that's how powerful this stuff was, you know, and I've seen
Right.
this a few times. Some of the best work I've ever seen. I'm just like, I was jealous, man. I was low key jealous. I was like, damn.
Well,
It's like,
with your employer, right? We'll just say that for the sake of
yeah,
discretion. I've seen them put on York Rite degrees, and I've seen them with full costumes,
yeah, oh
and they
yeah,
have a degree team that's all they do. Like
yep,
they don't do anything else. That is
yep,
all they do. So when it's time to put these mass degrees on, they have costumes. It's like a
yeah,
Broadway play. It
yeah,
was crazy. I was just like, especially the Knights Templar one, right? And me being a writer and the Grand Commander, I'm just like, at the time I wasn't, but I'm sitting there in the South and I'm looking at it, and I'm in awe, right, of our guys that are going through it because
yeah,
I'm like, dude, you guys are getting an experience
yeah,
like it's invaluable. Like they're gonna look back at it like, damn, that was really dope. Like
yeah,
now I see, what this apostle went through, or I see what this
yeah.
really means and why, because they can see it. It's a visual
Yeah.
representation. So it's crazy. Like I'm in awe of what they do.
And it's like one of those things like, please don't take this for granted. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you just want to
Yeah.
scream at him, like, please just don't take this for granted. Like you have no idea how high quality this is.
But it's like a rich child, right? A rich child
Yeah,
doesn't know any better. They just raise,
that's
they
true.
get a Lamborghini when they're 16, right? And they're driving to school in a
Yep.
Lamborghini or Maserati, and they don't know any different.
Yeah.
But then when they get it taken away, they're like, damn, it's a real world out here.
Yeah.
So
It really is.
inherently they take it for granted.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's crazy to have that bar set so high though. It's great.
man.
Trey,
I'm,
what's up to you, man?
yeah, Trey's kind of
Hey,
quiet today.
same old, man. I'm enjoying the conversation. Um, as you all know, I'm about to be pretty busy over this
Yeah.
next year. Yeah, so it'd be fun, man. Really excited uh to uh to contribute, put it that way. Really excited to
Yeah.
contribute. Um, I need to get back out and travel, do some more traveling, man. It's like my road dog left it. I'm like, I'm not traveling as much as I was before. And I'm curious, how do you compare that one to that one that we listened to out there in what was that? That was we were out in Fallbrook, weren't we?
Temecula.
Temecula. No, we were no, okay. You didn't come to one in Fallbrook.
I didn't go to the one in Fallbrook. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because it was cover to cover, man, and it was legit. It was
Airtight.
legit. Air
Yeah.
airtight, airtight, man. Um, I just been just taking it all in. I've been a little bit a little absent as of the last couple things, last couple months, usual vocation type stuff,
Sure.
So really just kind of been hitting the books myself and just enjoying life, man. Um, so yeah.
The
Yeah.
speaking of your new soon to be job,
Mm.
you know, the amount of like I think the application Grandview, um I think 70% of the Grand Lodges in North America use it.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a lot that is going into the development of that, and I get to see that in my regular job, and just streamlining all of the back end administrative stuff that
Yeah.
happens in lodges so that
Um,
secretaries can focus on other stuff going on. Uh, you know, I've seen them running beta versions for online petitioning, a full accounting system,
Yeah.
tracking prospects. Like they're really, really putting a lot of resources into these tools, and it's really revolutionizing the way that lodges are going to do things. So my best advice to you is to get as smart as you can with Grandview.
Yeah.
Uh,
yeah, yeah, I could help you put you in touch with one of the administrators, and I think Dudley is pretty good.
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, so, but yeah, I agree with you, Jay, and having had talks about Westgate. So three lodges now, three Grand Lodges own the rights to Westgate,
yep,
right? And so that system itself, probably by, I would say, if not 2025, by 2026, you'll be able to do almost 90% of the stuff in Westgate.
yep,
Mm.
everything.
Whereas 15, 20 years ago, you had to do it manually.
Yeah,
Lick a stamp, put a package in the mail. You'll be able to pay taxes,
yep.
everything electronically. Submit your reports all electronically.
You, you,
Store all of your files.
Yeah,
you know what's
mass
crazy?
emails.
Yeah. What's crazy to me is that, we there's so much technology out there, right? And like just the basic stuff of, accounting and running a business, like Rule said, right? Because that's what it is. It's a business, right?
Sure.
Like those processes aren't always like established, right? Or I will say this, they're established, but they are antiquated in the sense of like we're still like licking envelopes and all that other good stuff. So not looking forward to that in particular, but
Some jurisdictions aren't.
yeah, where I can definitely gonna leverage technology, but brings me to I guess a discussion. Um, how do you compare that jurisdiction over there with where you came from?
Yeah. Um, as far as like the technology
Yeah,
is concerned, man, I'm gonna tell you the jurisdictions that I work for, we have taken 99% of the work off of the lodges. We
yeah,
actually, the Grand Lodge does the dues invoicing. A lodge can opt into a dues invoicing program, and we do all the dues invoicing program for the lodges.
see, that's
So,
beautiful.
Bro,
like,
you guys got like 30,000 members though. You know what I mean? Like real talk. Like
oh, but
bro, that's
that,
crazy.
Yeah,
yeah,
You got like 30 freaking thousand members.
right,
yeah,
right. So I think we have 90% of our lodges enrolled in this program. We send out two hard copy invoices, right? Like, hey, pay your dues. And then if you miss the period, hey, you're in
delinquent.
arrears and paying your
Yeah,
dues. You need to pay your dues. And then we
Mhm.
send out like 5 or 6 emails over the course of that dues kind of billing season,
yeah,
but that think about it as a lodge secretary having to harass guys for dues, send emails, collect checks, all this other stuff. It's all done online. Like they all
yeah,
go in there and they all pay online, and they're signing up for auto payments.
yeah,
So they're if your lodge dues are $100 a year or $120 a year, you pay $10-15 just like your Netflix account every
yeah,
month, and your dues are paid. It's all about how can we make this as easy as possible so that if we're talking about business, how can we get guys to pay our dues? Because
yeah.
the reality of our jurisdiction is you cannot make enough Masons to replace the guys that are being suspended for not paying their dues.
Right.
So it's not about growing your membership through new Masons. It's about growing your membership through keeping the Masons that you have. Now,
Yeah,
that isn't just paying dues. That's also the lodges providing an experience for all their members, right?
yeah,
Because some guys are just like, I'm not paying my dues. I see no value in this anymore. So it's kind of like a two-pronged thing. But I think, where I live at, the focus is on making new Masons, and the assumption is that if we make more Masons, then our membership will grow. Well, that's not necessarily the case. You need to keep the guys that you have, and you keep the guys you have by providing the experience that shows them that there's value in what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, people don't quit organizations; they quit people, though.
Yeah.
100%. And I've had those conversations, I don't come back, or I moved away. Why should I be a member of my lodge if I don't live there and I don't go to lodge? Like, oh,
Yeah.
well, you should probably demit then and find a new lodge in your new area and resume your Masonic journey. So in regards to membership, that's kind of where we're at. It's not about making new guys. It's about keeping the guys you got and keeping the guys you got engaged.
Yeah.
And that's the tough part, because it's probably easier just to find guys. There's tons of guys interested in Masonry.
Yeah.
That's not the issue.
What I'm curious about, and I think this can relate to, really anywhere. And I think both of y'all have great experience with this, right? With change, right? And change from this perspective of you get new leadership, whether it be in your lodge or, the Grand Lodge and whatnot, right?
Sure.
Right.
Looks like that transition. And how is it, first of all, right? And what would be some recommendations to brothers out there who are listening to embrace change for the good? I think that's a good question I have for y'all.
Yeah, I'll let Justin go, then I'll go and give you my.
Yeah. The jurisdiction I work in, our biggest kind of challenge as a Grand Lodge is getting them to use the tools that are available to them. So
Yeah.
I talk about, the Grandview, as you guys say, the Westgate, they're two of the same for listeners. How can we get them to start using these things in an efficient manner? Like, how can we influence that? Because let's be realistic, right? I think the average age of a Mason in our jurisdiction is in his mid to late 60s. How can we influence that age demographic to go online and pay their dues, for the secretaries to use those online tools to make your life a lot easier? Like, how do we do that? And I think the answer in almost all cases is education, providing the workshops, providing information at the retreats.
Yeah.
And we do a pretty good job of that. They have a secretaries association meeting, I think once a quarter, where they have a 2 or 3 hour and they talk about things that we need to get better in. And I think those things are very, very beneficial. Getting your attendance up to go to those things are huge. And the same thing with the retreats, which Trey, you got to go to me
that was
with one of them
phenomenal.
last year, and they were great. There's a lot
I'm
of
waiting
great
for you to come
information.
back so we can go to another one, man.
We will. Don't worry, boss. I got you. But at the end of the day, like, it's a volunteer organization.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like, guys have to have the bandwidth to attend these things.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult to tell a lodge or tell a Grand Lodge, like, hey, we need to be looking at something through a different lens, when they just say, like, well, this is the way we've always done it, which I know you guys hate that answer too. That's my opinion. Education is ultimately the answer.
Yeah, I'll take it from a different perspective. Being where I'm at and what I do on this side, there's a few different ways that I've had to look at it. First of all, I've had to embrace it.
Yeah.
Because each leader is different, right? All of us did our time in the military. Each leader is different. They bring something different to the table. So I've had to embrace the new leadership, and then I had to understand their why. I'm still going through that process, but I think I'm getting there. Understanding why they're doing what they're doing. So the next point is it's causing me to be more patient.
Yeah.
To wait for things to matriculate and translate, because you come into a situation and having taken over for a grand body now, you have to be very patient, because there's a lot of things that you want to fix, but you can't fix it all in one day.
Yeah.
So it's like trying to eat an elephant in one day.
Yeah.
But then the last piece for me specifically is that I feel like change is inevitable, right? Like life, death, and taxes. Uh,
Yep.
and so I'm trying to be an agent of change,
Yeah.
and being in a leadership position and being visible. Um, that is one of the things that I've had to embrace is being an agent of change. And
Mhm.
it's because if I am negative about change, then everybody around me is going to be negative about the change.
Facts.
It's true.
So
Facts.
that's my look at it or
Yeah.
about
You
it.
bring up a really good point of just being present and visible. You know what I mean? And I firmly believe that just keep showing up, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
just keep showing up. Like no matter how you personally feel about things, like I think by being there, by being present, I think people are intelligent to know kind of what you're thinking without having to ask you. Like
Right.
they know, but just you being there and not quitting and giving up, because I think sometimes things didn't change because people gave up, right? They just kind of, well, I can't change this, and they kind of throw their hands up in the air and they walk away. you know Real change happens from people continuously showing up, and I think that you bring up a really good point by just being present, maybe not voicing your opinion every time, but just being there. And people know where you stand.
Yeah. And it's funny you
Yeah.
say that because I was just thinking when you're saying you're talking about being present, and then also there was something that struck me to think about just masonry in general, like all the stuff and things that happens in a lodge and outside of lodge, and the lack of better terms, politics and this, that, and the other. All it is rhetoric. You know what I mean? We're talking,
Mhm.
bringing it back to several level arts and sciences, right? It's rhetoric and being able to communicate and being able to say something without saying something, right? To help brothers, put the connect the dots and put the pieces together. So, indifferent of it might not be in the ritual, right? Per se, what we're
Sure.
talking about, but when we're talking about masonry in general, it's one of those things like you can choose to be involved and you can choose to uh, participate in the rhetoric because that's all it is. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
thought that was interesting when you said that. I just had like an aha moment. I was like, that's one of the several liberal arts, and we should be good at that in the sense of at the end of lodge, like, hey, good of the order. Like, I haven't heard anything, any brothers bring up anything particular half the time because, we're ready to get out of there at that point.
Sure.
But it's important. It's an important tool to learn that's applicable not just in masonry, but I think that's one of the things that helps us develop ourselves as leaders and as people, being able to participate in rhetoric, put together logical thoughts, and present it in a manner in which brothers can understand in order to insert whatever that thing you're trying to do. I don't know, even if you're trying to, plan an event, or you're trying to convince someone to a group to participate in a particular thing, conduct a move, whatever that may
Sure.
be. And I think tying that back to masonry, like that is something that we don't talk about education. I think that's a great education
Oh,
piece.
dude.
I was listening to it was actual Harvard. It was a Harvard because Harvard puts all they put a lot of lectures and stuff on online, and I'm just like a nerd like that when I'm in the evenings. I was thinking about or listening to a a lecture on critical thinking, and I didn't realize how important and really how basic critical thinking is, and how you have to you use it every day. You just don't realize it, but the more and more you can exercise and observe yourself critically thinking, the more effective you can be in communicating your particular point. And I
Mm.
thought it was just fascinating because we do it every day, but yet we're not really good at it, if that
No.
makes sense. Not naturally, you know what I mean? So
No.
Yeah.
yeah,
I
Yeah.
mean,
I think
but it says, and I'll get to you in a second, just on my fault. But
you're good.
talking about communication, that's kind of where it's the linchpin, right? It's the rubber. This is where the rubber meets the road. As Masons, we don't communicate nearly enough
Yeah.
And then when we communicate the wrong message.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets twisted, right? Because in our mind, you said we don't practice enough, right? And you're right, because in our minds, we're thinking this is all we know. We're going to say it how we think it. Vice, having that rhetoric more or less, right? Or understanding grammar and what it really means, and
Yeah.
understanding words have these meanings that carry these real crazy connotations, either good or bad. And so whatever
Right.
if you say some crazy stuff that just at the top of the dome and don't think about it and it comes out, it's not like you can reel it back in, right?
Yeah.
You know what I
No, it's
mean?
gone.
Yeah.
So
Some people,
No, man.
I do that often too, right? I'll just say something and people like, "What are you talking about, man?" I like, "Oh, I was over here, man. Like, off the reservation here." Then I got to remember, I got to walk. Let me walk through, my thought process and whatever topic that I'm bringing up here, in order for the context to be understood. But I like that
Yeah.
though. I really do.
yeah,
You
but
keep
don't you
people
think
guessing.
yeah, but think about it like this though, Trey. Your brain is so advanced in so many different things. And going through the educational piece you're going to and then going into the program that you want to go into, think about having conversations with most brothers. You're talking at them, not to them.
Yeah.
And it's by no fault of your own, but it's by the fault of them not being comparably at the same level. Because we say we all meet on the level, but yes and no, right? Because we're all at different stages
Yeah.
in life. And so having those conversations, sometimes your brain is up here and their brain is, down here. And it's not saying they're dumb or indifferent, you know what I mean? Nothing like that. It's
Yeah.
just you're thinking something because you have that ability to think critically.
Yeah, I think a lot of that too, might not, well, yeah, it could be tied to, your how often you exercise critical thought, and how often you participate in those things and if you're curious about it. But I think a
Mhm.
lot of it too has and you could probably attest to this as a man almost in his dotage.
Who?
You've seen
Easy.
some things, you know what I mean?
Who?
Easy.
You've seen some things and done some
Yeah.
things, and you've had an experience, that has broadened your thought on understanding, because it's almost like, I'll bring it up. It's like that, how Malcolm Gladwell explains intuition, in that book Blink. Like, we don't realize our intuition is actually our brain outthinking our conscious mind, and really we're using our unconscious biases to break down a particular problem or absorb a particular event so fast that we can't process it, and the way we think about it, or the way we've communicated that, is to be, oh, I just have an intuition, or I have a gut feeling that such and such is going to happen. But it's really our brain just outpacing our ability to
Mm.
observe it consciously. And I thought that was very interesting, kind of tying to the topic here of, I don't think it's necessarily well, it might be, I won't say it's a capacity thing. I think it's an experiential or experience, in which that exposed to a lot of things. I think about in my youth, in the military, traveling all over the world, from New Delhi to Cuba to Greece to insert whatever country, and that continuous cycle of observing, understanding, trying to understand, being able to adapt to change, right? It's a completely different country, completely different. So a lot of people are conditioned, probably more so in their vocation too, depending on what it is, to adapt to change rapidly. And I don't think that, a lot of people have that experience, but it's definitely something that can be learned, for sure. I don't know what y'all think.
That's the key right there. You said it before I could even get it out of my mouth. You said a couple things. You're talking about the unconscious mind, right? That unconscious mind is learned behavior,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
It absolutely 1000% learned behavior, because you're thinking about, you're like, you react based on how you were raised, on the experiences that you've gone through
Yeah.
your unconscious thought, right? And
Yeah.
then that unconscious thought, just comes out.
Yeah.
And
Right.
you don't even think about it. But that's a
For good or
learned
for worse.
exactly. Better or worse,
Yeah.
rich or poor, right? That's a learned behavior though. Like straight up, like all of these things are learned behavior. So the way that they were learned in a negative way, they can be taught in a positive way.
Yeah.
But we have to be, when I said be an agent of change, that's part of it.
Yeah.
Like coming into a lodge, understanding the situation, like the lodge I'm in now, relatively new to that lodge. So I've had to do a lot of sitting back and watching,
Yeah.
but I also know that the times I'm able to give lectures, those are impactful. They're not long, but they're
Right.
impactful, right? And so that's changing, being that agent of change,
Yeah.
right? Being there, waiting for your time, waiting for your opportunity, and then when your opportunity comes, you take advantage of the opportunity.
Yeah.
So
And that
The,
education's huge, and I miss it.
there's a I'm reading right now in my spare time. I don't even know how I came across this book, but I think it's relevant to the topic at hand right now. So, and I'm not gonna lie, it's a bit risque, but I'm gonna tell you what it is anyways, right? From the sense, it's called Black Rednecks and White Liberals, right? Was what the name of the book is called, and it's
I'm
by
not even gonna touch that. Go
It's
ahead.
Thomas Sowell, right? But it's talking about learned behavior, right? Learned
Mhm.
behavior from a perspective of we'll call it immigration to the United States. Goes into talks about the antebellum South as well as the post war South and some of the learned behaviors of cultures. And I'll put it at that, and I'll leave it there, and where that actually comes from. And it's very powerful to observe, these stereotypes and these things that are oftentimes attributed to certain cultures, whether it be, the African American culture, the Jewish culture, German, whatever it may be, but that learned behavior, how we uh, inadvertently and sometimes, well, I won't say inadvertently, but I guess it is inadvertently, and subconsciously absorb the environment in which we are, right? And they have resounding and long lasting effects on our ability to think for ourselves, our ability to observe and understand what's happening. I think it's relevant to the topic we had because I think how it ties to masonry is like you got to be careful who you hang around with, and I think that extends beyond masonry. Right? Our
Yeah.
your parents always, well, my mom used to always tell me, "You are who you hang around." Right? You
Oh,
are who you hang
100%.
around. And that
Yeah,
is so, so true. If you want to change who you are, change your circle.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, I can tell you, my mother personally is not a fan of masonry. She is
Hmm.
not. She is not a. She won't. She doesn't have any pom poms cheering for masonry. Trust me. And her being a preacher, and her son being a mason, yeah, not the best conversations at Christmas time, right, or dinner time. Um, but to your point, Trey, there's a book that I actually read, and not anything about rednecks or liberals. Uh,
And
it's
if you know
something.
me, you know
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
good, which
yeah.
is
It's
ironic.
something a little bit more soft, but it's on the same plane, just a different approach. It's called Mindset by Carolyn Dweck,
Mm,
and she talks about she's a psychology professor at Stanford, and so she's talking about growth mindset and fixed mindset. Now, the fixed mindset, uh, they used a bunch of kindergartners and they gave them these tests, and these, they failed. So they
yeah,
accept the failure, right? They said the tests were too hard. But the people, the kindergartners with the growth mindset, they said, this test is hard, but I want to study, and my plan is to ace the test.
hmm,
So it's the same test, but different mindsets in their approach to that test. So it's a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. A growth mindset will always think, I can do better.
yeah,
I can, no matter what the situation is. Yeah, that was tough. However, let me figure this out so I can accomplish it. Like a
yeah,
tough puzzle. Like it's
Sure.
tough, but I'm not going to give up. The fixed mindset is like, well, I can't do it. Oh, well. Boom.
yeah,
Yeah.
And what in our organization collectively, we have brothers that have fixed mindsets. But then there's a few, like the ones on this call and other ones on this video and other ones that have this growth mindset. Okay, let's put content out there, or let's do this so that we can encapsulate the brothers that think like us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Hence why we're here on the Trestle board talk.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
No doubt.
Shameless
Yeah.
plug.
Yeah. Always. Always. But
Yeah.
true. But always.
Yeah.
Always a shameless plug. Unfortunately.
Oh man.
Justin, you read anything or how's school?
Man, I'll be
Anything
honest with you,
interesting?
man. Yeah, I'm busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty busy time of year for work. It's slowing down though. It does slow down in December and January, which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
But you know, we're going back to your state for
Y-
Christmas. So
Yeah. See you
looking
in a
forward
couple
to
weeks
being
in a week.
back. Yeah,
Yeah.
next weekend.
Yes,
So we're
sir.
looking forward to get back for that. But it's just, new to the area, recently moving. Wife is
Yeah.
very busy with work, and you said something a few months ago that kind of struck with me. And now I don't even know if you remember saying this, but
Uh,
you said life is living me, I'm not living life.
yeah.
And I kind of just it's just that time when I just kind of feel like I'm just not really going through the motions, but I'm at a my capacity is getting close to max. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to dialing it back for a little bit
Hey,
and taking a breather because I mean, you guys have moved before. Like moving takes a toll, and
yeah.
moving to a new area takes a toll, and your social life takes a toll, and
Yeah.
you're meeting everybody for the first time, and it's just kind of it was good it was really good for the first couple months. It's still
Yeah.
good. It's just it's becoming a little bit more challenging, and I think reality has set in that like we're here.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to make it work, man. And the cold is something else. Trying to get
Oh,
used
I
to
bet.
that. It's a whole lot of extra stuff you got to do around the
Mm.
house. So I'm getting used to that too.
Yeah,
I
no,
bet.
So
I just came from DC and Virginia. And yeah, that cold is a whole different level of respect or disrespect in this case.
yeah, we
Oh.
I
came.
literally got sick when I came
Oh
back
yeah.
to California.
I was
Mm.
sick as a dog last week. We had an event at our lodge. We did a toy drive last night, and really bad ice storm. And I'm driving like 10 miles an hour back country roads, like trying to get home. I'm like, what the
Yeah.
hell am I doing here? Like, what is going on?
S-
Um,
So last week I was in Utah.
oh yeah,
Yeah, I was in Utah and it was cold too, but it's absolutely
beautiful,
gorgeous.
beautiful state.
Absolutely
Yeah,
beautiful. One of the most beautiful states that I've had the pleasure of going through in Salt Lake City.
yeah,
Um, but you said something though too. Remember, hey, when you think you reached your limits, your capacity, right? That's when
yeah.
growth happens, right? That's
I
when
know.
you're hitting
Yeah,
that. What is that like that butterfly coming out of that cocoon, man?
yeah.
Renewed. So just remember that.
But the guys here, they've really, the lodge has embraced me.
Yeah.
And it takes the culture here is a little bit different. I think in the military and in Southern California, I think that people uh, everybody's a transplant there, right? So, people are very open to new relationships. People are a little bit more reserved here, so it's taken time, but I will wear them down. I have every confidence in my abilities to wear them down and gain their friendship, and gain their trust in the lodge too. I've
Yeah,
given them a
Yeah.
little bit. I've given them a little bit, but I think I'll wear them down. They'll see what I'm about here in the next year.
Yeah.
So I just need time.
yeah, that's the most important thing. Is just like I keep talking about communication and trust. Those are the two most important
Yeah.
things in every
Absolutely.
relationship. Like, and especially when you go somewhere new, it's they don't know you, you don't know them. You have
Yep.
to learn how to communicate with each other, and then most importantly, you have to learn how to trust each other because those walls are not going to come down until that trust is garnered.
Yeah.
And once the trust is garnered, then it'll be pretty organic from that
Yeah.
point.
I was always told in masonry, no matter where you go, you'll always have a friend. Well, wherever you go, you're going to have acquaintances and something in common
Yeah,
with
yeah,
somebody, but that doesn't
facts.
necessarily mean you're going to be their best friend.
No,
And but a lot of the challenges we had in our last lodge, of like, let's hang out outside of the lodge. Like, let's actually get to know each other. Like, let's build a friendship, because that's just not the culture there right now.
Yeah.
Culture is you come in and you do that Masonic work, and yeah, there's some laughs and some fun that happens during that. Like, it's enjoyable for most and for me. But I'm also interested in getting to know you outside the lodge as well. So let's meet outside there. So I'm going to try to influence those events to happen, because I think they're very important, because I think they know each other Masonically, but I don't think they know each other personally,
That's because your cables ain't out there.
dude, Mr.
That's because your
Guys.
cables ain't out there.
I know.
Which brings me all the way back, right? 'Cause you said something about yeah, that was one of those times where a thought process, boom, right? But I'm gonna bring this back about that, right, in particular. So you said, they were raising, guys within, 8 guys within 4 months you're there, or whatever
Yeah.
the number was at, right?
Yeah.
So do you think that, by you having cables, I take it, or I deduce from that, or deducted from that, like there aren't many like groups that are going through together, right? So you don't have that bond or those other brothers to lean on, and it's not really a shared experience. It's more of an individual experience. How do you think that that has reflected or resonated or reverberated through, the craft there?
I think that ritualistically, like, they gain friendship by that shared experience and by studying and going through proficiency and showing their proficiency together. Like,
Yeah.
I do think that there's that, but we weren't, like, you and me, when we came through, like, we weren't forced to do this.
Hmm.
It was just kind of something that happened. I think that we had the realization that, like, we actually got to get to know each other too.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's an important part of building this trust, is I need to know who you are. And
Yeah.
I'm going to segue that into a story. Okay. So I'll try to keep it short. Um, I was a guy, we were talking about the toy drive, a new master mason who was raised, I think he got raised last year,
Yeah.
gave me a call. I invited all of the lodge officers to my house for New Year's Eve. We'll have a
Hmm.
potluck, guys will come over, the wives will get to meet each other. Like, it'll be a really cool thing where we get to know each other. This has never been done before. Shocking.
Mm.
So I send this invite out like a couple weeks ago. And one of the guys, I think he's the junior deacon, gave me a call. He's like, "Hey man, I just wanted to reach out and touch base with you about this party you invited us to." I'm like, "Yeah, man, it'd be great. Bring a side dish, bring your kids. It's all good. Like, I got kids, I got a wife, he does too. Like, we'll let
Yeah.
him meet." He's like, "Well, my wife doesn't really have the most favorable opinion of masonry right now." And I'm like, "Okay, go ahead." So I had to kind of drag it out of him.
Yeah.
Long story short, over Thanksgiving, a senior member of our lodge, a very well respected member of our lodge Masonically, is a member of all these appended bodies, and I'm not going to give his position away,
Yeah.
invited him and his family over to his house for Thanksgiving. And apparently it did not go well.
Yeah.
Like, they showed up, there was, they were not hosting very well. They ignored him and his wife. It kind of felt like
Yeah.
he felt like it was an inconvenience that they were there.
Yeah.
The dogs were all over the place. Like, it was just not, it was a really bad experience, to the point where
Yeah.
his wife was traumatized. And I was like, "Well, that sucks. How did it make you feel?" And he's like, "I got to be honest with you, man." He's like, "I had a tremendous amount of respect for this individual and how they did things in masonry and this person they were as a mason." He's like, "I got to be honest with you." He's like, "I don't think of him like that anymore, because I saw how he was outside the lodge.
Yeah.
I saw that
Mm.
he isn't actually the mason that he portrays himself to be when he wears a suit and an apron."
Yeah.
And it was a shocking thing to me. And I had to have the heart to heart with him. I'm like, "Hey man, I'll be honest with you. Not every mason you meet is going to be an upstanding guy. Not every mason that you meet really lives what we're supposed to be living. Some guys put on a show in the lodge, around Masonic events, and that's not how they actually live their life." And he was pretty upset, man.
Yeah.
But just to kind of see that and I kind of piggybacked off of that, and I said, and that's why I want you to come over to my house. Not that I can show you this great man that I am, because I'm not. Like, I'm a regular guy just trying to improve myself, just like everybody else. But just so you can see that, like, how I am here is how I am at home. That this is my home. You are welcome here anytime. You are my
Yeah.
brother. You are my brother, and I will take care of you. And I just wanted to show you some hospitality. And he's like, you know what? I'll be there. And I was like, I will not make you regret coming over.
Yeah.
I'll have food for your brother. I promise. Like, it's all good. Like, my wife
Yeah.
is pretty nice. It's all good. Like, it's gonna be, we are hosting you. So it was just like a stark reminder for me, that people aren't always who they portray themselves to be.
Yeah.
And it was a big shock to him, because this is a guy that basically mentored him his entire time coming
Yeah.
through the lodge. And that was the first time that they hung out outside the lodge, and it was a complete disaster.
Mm.
Yeah.
Tough.
Isn't that why we're losing Masons, eh?
Yeah. And
This is called a spade a spade. That's why we're losing Masons.
yeah. And
Like
he's like,
you
guys,
don't
do
use
that.
those, yeah, you don't use those working tools, man. Like how you are in that lodge it's important that because people are always watching you and
Yep.
how you are in that lodge and whatever positions you have in that lodge, good, bad, or indifferent, people are gonna look at the position first and you
Yep.
secondly. But you are kind of you're like a 1A. You're not really
Right.
like a two. And so if you're not carrying, you're not carrying yourself a certain way, then it is. And I told the guys today during the installation, I says, when you walk out these doors, remember that you represent your Grand Lodge. I said,
Yeah.
most importantly, you represent your families that are here with you today. And I said, so understanding that responsibility, and I told them to whom much is given, much is required.
Right.
So you've been instilled with all of these titles and positions and blah blah blah. But what do you do with it, and how do you carry it day to day? Because once something goes wrong, they blame the organization, not you as an individual.
I I
Right.
think I think that and it's interesting to hear that about that individual
Yeah.
because the way at least my mind thinks about masonry, and in particular I'll take it back to the business side of masonry and going through these particular seats, that is you sitting in those seats is right, is those superfluous edges being smooth per se, in the sense of like you're learning and you're to a degree you're fumbling through this unfamiliar territory in which you have to dedicate time and effort and energies to in order to improve yourself so that you may be able to come back and from the lessons learned of submitting a report or coordinating an event, learning those learned habits and the interaction that must take place in order for it to be defined as successful. I think that is another part of masonry that the business part of masonry that helps grow men, right?
Sure.
And oftentimes we got you see some brothers who'll run from that or who will put that onto someone else in order to further themselves when they're really missing out on the thing that they were set up to be better at, if that
Right.
makes sense. So I think that's really interesting. You still see it. People. I'll call it being fake. Or
Yeah.
putting
Oh
on a
yeah.
facade while they're going through this thing and not really learning. And it's such a talk about an experience and how we were talking earlier how experiences contribute to your ability, your capacity, your ability to expand your capacity, right?
Yeah.
So it's missed opportunities. And that's why, to me, I don't think there's any rush on trying to go through a particular chair or to go here, there, and the
Sure.
other and do the things because there's so much to be done and there's so much that you can still do to improve yourself. Even talking about dependent bodies, right? That like
Sure. Yeah.
that's another extension of that. Like you're racing to this thing without enjoying the process, and you're missing those lessons or those relationships that you could be building by just being engaged in the process, right? Because it's all about the process. No matter what you do, it's about discipline, self-discipline, to be able to apply yourself against anything that you're doing. So it's a shame that brothers are missing out on the opportunity to grow, their business acumen or and their individual character through these particular, seats or whatnot. So just an observation.
No,
But you
and
can, yeah,
yeah,
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Jay.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, you can make, and I'm just gonna be honest with you, man. I've been to Mason a little bit now, and I've seen like a brother specifically. I'm not gonna say his name, older brother, but he makes an impact without saying a word,
Hmm.
just sitting as the marshal. Why does he make
Yep,
an impact as a marshal? Because he shows up every damn meeting,
yep,
irregardless of what's going on in life, how he feels, he shows up, and that's inspiring. And so you're like, man, and then he drives a pretty good distance too, like something like, an hour, almost an hour one way,
Oh,
just to get here
mm,
and to show up, not only show up, but show up maybe an hour and a half early.
yeah,
Like I told him this, say, bro, you're like, we gonna start to, 7:30. And he was like, no, I just, I'm here. And he just shows up.
yeah,
yep,
And so I said that to say this, that you don't, because to your point, Trey, talking about rushing to get through the chairs and all of this and that, it's true, but why? And then if you take that and you literally, either you, Trey, or Justin, ask your brother what's their why. Just walk up to him
yeah,
out of the blue. Don't preempt it. Walk up to him. Hey, brother, good morning. Da da da. And you start talking. What's your why? And then just watch their reaction. And if they're fake, it's gonna come out.
hmm.
yep.
So this,
Why are you here tonight?
yeah. What's your why, right? Because
Yeah,
I was listening to a brother talking, he's much older, and he was saying that we should be over the moon getting ready to go to the meeting because that negativity starts when you're putting on your suit.
Hmm.
He said you should get your suit out, prep your suit, and when you're prepping your suit, because I do it, I hang it up in the closet, prep, put the little stuff on it, get it squared away, and now you're putting yourself in a mindset. Shameless plug for the book to go to go to that meeting, and then once you get to that meeting, if it starts with the prep at home, once you get to that meeting, you have a good frame of mind to be that brother, and you don't have to say a word, just showing up, being organized, being there. Brothers, look at that.
Yeah,
oh yeah, goes a long
yeah.
way too.
Yeah.
Our Tyler's 88 years old.
Ooh,
He's a past master of the lodge, 40 years in masonry, and he's there, and
yeah,
he loves it. And it carries a lot of weight, man.
Yeah.
It carries a tremendous amount of weight. He doesn't need to get involved with all this other stuff, but him just
Yeah.
being there every meeting, it's inspiring, man. You
Yeah.
know, the guy can
And then you
barely
talk
move
to him,
around.
but he's forgot more stuff than we know.
Oh, I know.
You
I
know what I
know.
mean? And as a Tyler, he's there because the Tyler and the senior deacon are the two most important jobs in the lodge.
Yep.
People are overlooking. They think is I want to be the worship master because it's all the glitz and glamour. I want to be the senior one. I want to be the junior one. What about the Tyler keeping off all counts and eavesdroppers, having none to pass or repass, but such as are
Yep.
duly qualified? And so you're
yeah,
like, what does that really mean though? That means a
yeah,
lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like he's got to know all the grips, passes. He has to know everything to challenge that brother when they come in. And senior deacon is raising new masons,
yeah.
Yep.
right? So that senior deacon is a teacher. So we just got to look at things from a different lens, man. We're just looking at it the wrong way. We
Yeah.
we are as a collective.
I got
Uh,
one more observation. Raul said mindset, right? When I think about all of the things that go into the prep and coming to lodge and everything, it's like, well, what is that? Why do we dress the way we dress? Why is there decorum? Why is there Robert's rule? Or why is everything organized in the manner in which it is? And I don't think we take a moment to really think about that and how that applies. And that, like, if you apply that same process to different facets of your life, how you'll be able to be, successful or what's the word? Not necessarily success, not progressive, but you'll be able to improve upon your life a lot quicker than you realize, because it teaches us to, one, respect those, right, who are there in the lodge. There's rules, there's boundaries, there's that left and right lateral limit. So there's all kinds of nuggets in there that, excuse me, I believe are subconsciously kind of, there, that we don't really recognize, that our brothers can glean a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
knowledge and wisdom from if they just apply it to different facets of their life. So,
Well, you said something pretty important. You think about order, having order and structure, but
hmm
void minus the order minus the structure equals chaos.
yeah,
Because that's all you're gonna get. If you have no structure, you're gonna have utter chaos.
yeah,
And having that chaos, no organization can stand. Because if you think about why Robert's Rules was created in the first place, it was just to
hmm
run a meeting. That's
Yeah.
the only reason it was created
Efficiently.
efficiently, to have
Yeah.
order in a meeting and run it efficiently. And so had he not done that in the 1800s, or whenever 1800s, what would we be today?
you're right.
What would our meetings look like minus Robert's Rules of Order?
Oh geez. Be
Think
chaos.
about that. Think about what our
Hey,
meet. Think about what
hey,
our meetings would look like. We
yeah,
think they're bad now. Well, we get whatever we think on a day-to-day basis,
yeah.
minus Robert's Rules of Order. What would our meeting look like?
Right.
It'd be crazy.
It
Congress
would
in the
be.
1700s.
Yeah, it'd be crazy. Well, it'd be crazy. Like
Yeah,
our membership would be way worse
Rome.
than it is now.
Yeah,
Yeah, ain't nobody gets to stick around for that.
No,
Oh
nah,
man.
because there's no agenda, there's no falling agenda, there's no rules. People jumping up, interrupting the East, blah blah blah, right, and just stepping over each other, disrespecting each other. No decorum, as you said,
yeah.
Trey. Dude, our meetings
There
would
are
be.
lodges like that.
Oh, I know. I know. We just uncovered one up up in Northern California. So
Get my
Oh
yeah,
popcorn
man.
sit in the South.
Lord of Flies.
yeah, man. So
Oh man.
I don't know about y'all, but it's been a few weeks, man. But these are always so therapeutic, and I think that our message reaches. And as a matter of fact, I know that these messages and things that we talk about reach a lot of people,
Yeah.
and it touch people in different ways. Because I've had different conversations with brothers, open dialogue about this podcast. So I'm always appreciative of us jumping on here, going through dialogue, because we say stuff that brothers want to say, but just don't have a platform to say it on.
Yeah.
That's true.
So,
And I know that there are brothers out there that have felt the way I have, or the way I do.
right.
And uh somebody out there,
Matter of
relates.
fact, the guy you was talking about, maybe share this link with him. You
hmm
know what I mean? Like, let him
Yeah.
look at it. Let him look at it and let him digest it, and be that agent of change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if I feel like a brother needs it, I'll send him the link, and let them digest it how they digest it.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I
Oh, it's
mean,
always good to see you guys, man. Like,
yeah,
because I don't see you guys all the time. So,
yeah,
any time to get on with you guys and chop it up is huge and therapeutic for me. Because I'm
Yeah.
kind of at that weird transition right now where I can't really
yeah.
have this, and you guys are. I may not talk to you all the time, but better believe I'm thinking about you.
Well,
Same.
no, because when you
Same.
got on here, you were really tight and tense when we first started, and now you can tell that your whole disposition is different in just a
Oh,
short amount of time. You know what I
uh,
mean?
I miss you guys.
Yeah.
We miss you
Same
too,
here,
bro.
man. Same here, man. Like no other, man. Like
All
no
right.
other. It ain't the same. It
Yeah,
really
I
ain't,
know.
you know? And I appreciate you gentlemen listen to me rant on
And your internet going down.
topics
Yeah,
and
he's
whatnot.
stuttering.
I'm hoping
This
that
stuff.
somebody, huh?
You can start breaking up. It just so we were just
What was
climbing
that?
the
Oh,
whole
I'm
back.
stuttering. Did it? Oh,
Yeah,
did it? Oh, okay. Oh, very well, very well. I appreciate y'all allowing me to be here and listening to my shenanigans and giving feedback. It's always fun, man. It really is. I always walk away from these things. I always think about, well, what are we going to talk about? And this ends up being very insightful. I always walk away with some notes and things and to look into myself to something different. And I know, and I hope, I won't say I know, I hope that the brothers out there listening or anyone out there listening can glean some light from this discussion. Did I break up?
no, you're
Are you
good.
good? You
Okay,
good?
You're good.
glean some light. Okay, glean some light from this discussion and what we talked about. And just remember, there's brothers out there that are thinking exactly what you're thinking. They're feeling exactly what you're feeling. But like kind of like what today's topic was, like being an agent for change, man, is the ultimate outcome because there's growth, personal growth, there's professional growth on the other side of this thing, man. So I just want to give that to our listeners out there.
Yeah.
Amen.
Find you a Trey and Raul to talk to.
Shoot,
There's
Oh,
got to
and,
be one
and
in your
Lord.
lodge.
put
Go
yourself
ahead.
in there. Yeah, find you a Justin to talk to, man. Because
Find you
Facts.
find you somebody to talk to, and
yeah,
a couple. All it takes is a couple motivated brothers in your lodge, and
that's it.
you can
Start a
influence a whole
podcast.
lot.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's it, man. Let's sit
you can
around the
influence
table.
a whole
Let's
lot.
hey, let's start a podcast. Okay, let's do it. Boom.
Yeah. It happened
Influence a whole
quick
lot.
too. It happened quick.
Yeah, so
So,
we're on, man, and we'll pick it back up after the holiday, after Christmas. Pick it
Get
back
some
up
guests.
again, and I'll look at some guests, and we'll talk offline about that, man. But to the
Yeah,
listeners, again, just like Trey said, we appreciate you tuning in. Hopefully, again, take something away from it, even if it's just one thing. Just take something away from it. Take it back to your lodge, just take it back to your organization, whatever that is, and apply it, and
yep,
see the difference. Right? It's like planting a seed and then
yep.
watering it, and then watch it grow. So.
Just don't
yeah.
give up. That's what I took away from today. Just keep
Yeah.
showing up, man. Good
Hey,
things will happen if you just keep showing up.
even if you get punched in the gut, keep showing up,
Keep
huh?
showing up. Keep
It's
showing
good
up.
for you. It's good
Fight,
for you. It's good
fight
for your
that,
brain.
fight that bully. All right, fellas. Well, hey, sayonara to you guys out there in YouTube land. We'll talk to you soon.
So,
Bye, guys.